All right, family. Yes, sir. We live. Make sure you get this link out there to them, family. You can go to my page, your page on the book, and all is well. And while you getting that done, we're gonna just move forward. I
You
just want
already
to rise, give praises to the great God, whom we call Allah. Honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are a living manifestation and personification of everything that our Holy Prophet brought to make us a nation, even those who don't know that they are a nation and have a nation. So our particular drawing, that we want to demonstrate, um, I actually would like to give our family some grand insight in regards to dealing with the meeting of the minds and bridging the gaps. This is the main measure that we want to deal with. And dealing with the opening of it, my brother, I want you to introduce yourself to the people. I'm Swift Angel number 4. And go ahead, brother.
Islam. Consulate General Tomb, Duamatel Mubasa Bay, Oklahoma Consulate. We rise in perfect praise, give our praise, honor, and glory to our Father God Allah, our illustrious prophet, High Street Abdul Ali, finance to Act 1, our flag and signs, emblems, and everything that is Moorish. I am Swift Angel number 151, and I'm just here, to bridge the gap because it's the time, for our family to come together because we really one nation of people. So, in our endeavors, we're going to set out and prove that, and show how we have more in common than we do. We have more in common and more in similarities than we do in differences. So, from the aspect of love and unity, that's what one's demonstrating from. Peace and love.
Yes, sir. Peace and love. And actually, you got to get that Facebook link. That's what it is. You didn't share the top link up there, did you?
Nah.
Okay. Was it a link?
I haven't shared nothing yet.
Okay, you haven't? Okay.
You want me to go ahead?
Not yet, because I'm pulling the link up now. I want to make sure that we share the right one.
Okay.
This is the first time demonstration, so we're gonna go over here, and I want to make sure I give you the right link. Yeah, because we lied there, it go right there. So let me see. I got the link right here. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna do it like that, and then I can click up bar and self. Okay, so we got it. Next time I have it'll be a little better.
Okay. So yes. Are you gonna resend it to me, and then I just send the one that
you? I'm gonna send it to you right now.
Okay.
It's all good. I see we got one person watching on. And they probably watching through YouTube too. By the way, let me turn. I want to turn my. Once I drop this link in Facebook, I'm gonna cut it off because I don't want nobody calling me. Okay. Now I'm gonna drop it on my page, and I'm gonna drop it in your inbox as well.
Okay.
Or if you want to, you can just go into my inbox now. I'm in your inbox now. So. Okay. So there you go. What I'm gonna do, we can move ahead now with this special measure. And you can just, like I say, share that demonstration.
Okay.
So the family can get it. Drop it in all the groups that you attach to.
Okay, and it's that last one, right?
Yeah, that last one that got YouTube on it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So
address. Let me go. I'm just making a making a post.
Yeah.
And
then you just share it randomly. Wherever it fall, in all the groups that you have, and it pull up groups, you can just hit send. So all is well. I just want to come forth and start building on this first portion, which we see the title is dealing with the atom disk. For those who may be familiar with the comedian lesson dealing with the atom disk, without going into any, extra aspects of dealing with this, especially symbol or pictorial expression, one thing that we can all agree on, even if we don't know anything about what we call metal netta, you can look at the atom disk, and what you will see is rays extending from the atom disk. And those rays that extend from the atom disk, there are hands at the end of each ray. And those hands that extend from each ray, as we know, we teach the hand is symbolic to the mind, due to its ability to shape, to mold, to obtain, retain, and so forth and so on. So if we really look at this, we can actually say that the atom disk is a great symbol of unity when you go into ancient Kemet. Because the atom disk having all of these rays coming into different directions with a mind, which is symbolic to those hands that are at the end, what they basically represent is the minds of the divine prophets or the warners, or just say masterminds, gurus, spiritual guides, whatever, spin you want to put on. It don't even matter what bag you come in religiously. But all of these particular hands, they represent particular individuals, gift that has been given from on high. And this atom disk is a great expression of that. So if we can look at the atom disk and how this extension bring forth knowledge, wisdom, and understanding at many different levels and degrees, we can see how the unity come from one place. Because though all of these different rays are extending from the atom disk, they are coming from one single source of light. And we can really liken that to why, when you looked at the teachings of ancient Kemet, and you speak of what we know as the Neteru, or the Neter. You see, Neter and Neteru. Neter would have represented the singular personage of divinity, and the Neteru represent those attributes or vibrations that come forth from the source, so to speak. And so if we can see our way of life in this particular way, along with different ways of life, different paths, understanding that divinity comes in many forms, we would be one as a people. Just looking at it, just look at the sun as it is now. We know that the sun shines on everything in creation. We know that the rays of the sun strikes, the earth, it strikes vegetation, it strikes, even our body, and we receive nutrients and so forth and so on from the sun. And it doesn't discriminate as to what it strikes, these rays. The nutrients that we are being given. The only people that have a problem with the sun is the people that are other than those who have a melanated hue. You see, those who don't have a melanated hue, then, that's where they have issues. But we can put that in the same likeness with the atom disk. Just as we don't have to deal with those particular individuals, it's the same way that we have to come together as a collective, with a collective responsibility, and come together and unite as a people, regardless of what you call yourself, regardless of what you call your prophet, regardless of what you call your leader, regardless of what you call your particular teaching, regardless of the particular book that you study from. This is the atom disk effect, for us to come together and recognize that the light has come from one source, having many rays, striking a particular people, or rather reaching out, through many different guides. So I want to ask you, brother, what's your particular measure and your thought in regards to dealing with, the atom disk and how it relates to unity you know, coming from your perspective. And then when we're done, we'll move to our next point. And then we're dealing with the meeting of the mind and bridging the gaps. That's our theme.
Peace, 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 peace and love, family. Peace and love. We rise in perfect praise. Give our praise, honor, and glory to our Father, God, Allah, illustrious prophet, Al-Sharif, Abdul Ali, Zach One, our flag, insights, emblems, with angels, Mufti, core, and everything that is more. Peace and love, family. Peace and love. In regards to, you know, that atom disc, you know, when you look at it and you see it is coming from that one source, and then it branches out. So, you know, that atom disc, I see that as a version of light. And in that version of light, you got different colors. And you can look at each color as having, so to speak, a function, a particular function whenever it comes to breathing forth life. Well, when you correlate that with, think about the different religious systems that we have amongst our people that, you know, causes us to be divided. And we forgot that we all came from one source. You know, we all came forth from the great God. And so somehow along the lines, you know, through different religious schools of thought, we begin to look at each other through I'm gonna say a broken up or fragmented lenses. We ain't seeing each other, you know, the divinity that we all have in that perfect spirit that we all have that comes forth from the same source. So we've taken bits and pieces of certain schools of thought and taken them and held them to be superior to our brothers and our sisters, causing us to look at each other, you know, as if, you know, we may be better than one another, or, you know, look down on one another. Just kind of, you know, instead of looking at it from a love aspect, we looking at it from a carnal aspect of, you know, not seeing the spirit that's within, you know. And so when it comes to that atom disc, I see that, you know, in uniting, we understand that in the uniting, we focusing on the similarities that we have. So in a lot of the similarities in the different schools of thought that we come out of, right? The number one key is love. That's it. Because when you look at it, I don't care if you coming from the Hebrew Israelite nation. I don't care if you coming from the Al-Islam nation. I don't care if you coming from a Christianity, you know, demonstration. In a way, you know, the key is love. You know not to offend your brother. You know not to steal from your brother, your sister, or do anything, you know, that's going to be harmful to them. So in the religious tenets of the faith, you know, I see that we have more in common than we do in dissimilarity, not in common. So with us in bridging the gap, I think you know, with us focusing on the principle of love, having that wanting for our brother and our sister what we want for ourselves, aiding and assisting our people, and really doing it from a genuine point. You know, I see that that's where the love and the unity can be made manifest outside of, you know, because you may not choose to bow down and pray 5 times a day. You know what I mean? That don't necessarily, that don't discredit you or take you out the ranks. No, because you may not necessarily participate in it that particular way. See what I'm saying? Your form of worship may be in serving others. You might feed the homeless. While that person, you know, that may be doing what you might not be doing, they may have another form of worship, you know, and it's all a part of humanity, because when you really look at it, you see we all have families and we all really desire the same thing, because we all one, the same father and the same mother. We come from the same source. So, you know, that's what I see with Aten. And I think that, you know, when we took upon, I'm gonna say we lost the unity of all of the religious systems, and we didn't see the connection, right, that we all had. I think that's where ones went astray. But with Aten, he comes and bring it back and showing the unity, the love that is to be made manifest, because we do have more in common than we do, you know, in this similarity, because we all really want the same thing. If you really, you know, if you really real, you know, and that's my measure for the, you know, for the moment. But that's what I see, and it's most definitely time that we unify, especially in amongst the different camps, because it's some things that in my studies I've been seeing, on that we can bridge those gaps and come together and reason and really unify and really make something happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I give honors to you, brother, for that draw. And yeah, that's what we got to do. And it's all about the unity, and that's why I wanted to start doing this, because most our people done seen a lot of debating, a lot of dialoguing and everything else, but they have yet to see people sit down and come together and talk to each other about what it is that we can build upon that is coming. And I give praises to the great God that he gave me the ability to be able to see the unity. The problem is that most of our people would rather identify more with those things that divide as opposed to what bring us together. And I will say this here as well. And for the audience, that may not be knowledgeable of the Aten disc, I wanna share my screen real quick. Let me open up a page, because we getting ready to move to another point, and I want to give our family some insight for this, so that they have a knowledge that we're gonna try to do this at all time as well, when we deal with this special portion. Okay, there we go, right there. Let's see, and we'll go right here. Okay, now I'm gonna share this right here real quick with you, so you can see, and just let me know when you see the screen, my brother. Okay, I can see it over here too. Okay, so now this is basically the Aten disc. Now, again, as we stated earlier, you can see that this is the source. The source is coming from the light. But all of these rays, and there are many more rays when it comes to the real sun. This is just an example on rays coming forth from a sun. And the sun disk is one of the most ancient and oldest expressions, that you've ever seen in Kemet. You can pretty much find that sun disk throughout every dynasty. The sun disk is one of the oldest measures. Even in fact, Aten, a lot of people think Aten has to do with Akhenaten bringing the worship back later. But in all actuality, Aten was on the manifest and one that came forth during the time of the Ennead. And that's a whole nother portion in a teaching. But the main thing is that all of these rays that are coming forth from this special disc are symbolic, again, to what we would call in our teachings the line of divinity, right? So if the line of divinity unites the matter, if this is the divinity, this is a hand being extended forth at the end of the ray, and the hand is symbolic to the mind, then the divinity of the matter is reaching a particular people through that special line of divinity, that intelligent being, whoever it is that may be sent to a particular people. To us, Prophet Noble Drew Ali was sent to us as Moors. Prophet Muhammad Ibn Abdullah was sent to the Orthodox Muslims. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, Yahshua, Yehoshua, he's known by many different names. He was sent to the Nazarites or the Nazarenes. So we can even go back to dealing with Moses or Musa alayhi salam, who I like to call Ahmosi. He was sent to deliver the children of Israel. And we can go on and on with how many of these different intelligent beings are God men that came on the manifest to a people, and all of them coming from one source, having a particular ray of light, a ray of truth that they brought to uplift a particular people. It don't get no plainer than that right there. So if the rays of the truth come from the same source, then the world shouldn't be so divided. The world shouldn't be so caught up in regards to dealing with a demarcated thought pattern. So I just wanted to point that out, in making the points. So the Atendis, that's a grand expression of the unity, brother. And at this particular point in time now, what we are going to do is move to our next point. And this next point is very important that we get a drawing on this, because this has led our people to many pitfalls when it comes to their understanding of who they are, when it comes to understanding who it is that oppressed them, or who the oppressor is presently. And let me get this up here real quick. I want to make sure our family. Okay, there we go. Yes. Okay. This is what I want to talk about. The Hemetic Hypothesis. And the Hemetic Hypotheses has had an effect upon, these particular religious teachings. They have had an effect upon the thoughts and minds of our people. And those who may be watching us, if you ever get a chance, just Google the Hermetic Hypotheses, because you have many people that are promoting this right now. And it basically has to do with Europeans who came together at a particular time with a collective thought to go among our people and basically teach them that they were the original people. Teach them that the Europeans were the original Egyptians, for example. To teach that, anybody that was in the earth, they were basically Europeans. This is what they began to teach. And this was to hide our history. This was to conceal our history and have our people think that they were also what you would call subhuman. These teachings were also taught them. As a matter of fact, I want to share my screen right here one more time so I can show you a particular draw that I put together in regards to dealing with the Hermetic Hypothesis. And you're going to find out that there are a lot of measures that came from this particular science, because this is the science that Napoleon used as well. Rather, he had scientists that was demonstrating along those lines. So he took them over into Egypt. And so while he was pillaging the land and infiltrating, he also had scientists that were going over there to remix the history, and basically deal with a culture hijacking is what I would call it. So these are some of the things that came with the Hermetic Hypotheses. Let me get us a chance to expand for our family. These are some of the things they came up with. When you hear people talking about the white man, black man, Chinese man, all these things came as a result of these same sciences. Even Darwinism was also involved with these things. And they came from a European that most know as Blumenbach. And if you look at the illustrations he have here, he have what he would call pretty much, the Europe. Well, this would be the parts of the Asiatic of the East. Then you have the European here. You got your, Middle Easterns or whatever. These would be your Moors. This would be your common Negro and so forth and so on. So he categorized these people into different groups. And basically, this is where they came up with these different forms of classification. So what they really created was a class society. This is like one of the first stages of giving birth to what they call apartheid. You know, it was already in the making, so to speak, to go to this special level. They had already been doing this with the history. You know, telling the people that they evolved from apes, telling the people that they were subhuman so that they can exalt themselves as being the rulers of a particular society. And people begin to eat this up, hook, line, and sinker, right? Now, also, when you deal with Blumen, Beck, you know, you can see here he classified the people along the lines as the Caucasian race, the white race, the Mongolian race, the yellow race, the Malayan, the brown race, the Ethiopian, the black race, and the American, the red race. So he came up with this colorism. So if you have people that are amongst our people now identifying themselves by means of colorism, then they are identifying themselves based upon the science that was created by this European. You know, and we have to ask ourselves, well, was there a race called a white race during any ancient time? Was there a race called a yellow race during any ancient time? Was there a race called a black, a brown, or a red race during ancient times? And we don't say these things to attack. We're saying this because we are showing you how the divide came. We're giving you this for information, not to attack, you know, what you call yourself or what you may think that you are. We're just giving you information. So these terms, again, came from this special individual. And so with these special, what they was actually, they even call these pseudosciences. And a lot of our people like to use that term pseudo a lot of times. They came up with these things and they used them to capitalize off of us as a people. And it is these same terms that had led to us being in the state that we have been in for over 400 and some odd years. You know, just dealing with titles, that's just one aspect. We ain't got to, you know, the brutalization, the enslavement process, and the kidnapping, denationalization. We ain't even got to all of that yet. We just saying that these are the type of things that were demonstrated, we can say as a precursor or to lay the foundation to what we end up becoming right now in this new era in time. And all of this can be rooted in the Hermetic Hypothesis. So, brother, I would ask you, you know, Swift Angel, you know, what would you have to say about this special measure? And how familiar are you with this Hermetic hypothesis?
I'm familiar with it, with the familiar Hermetic Hypothesis in the sense of me understanding, you know, the political, I'm gonna say the political strategy that was put down by the United States, and then the agents that was sent forth from, I think it was France, and you know, the agents that were sent forth, and when they wrote, you know, certain laws and stuff like that, identifying, you know, human beings as colors. And that, you know, when you take a human being and you write them into your laws as a color, right, then that's a process of that gives one the power to define. When you have the power to define a thing, right, then that means that you can form a shape, an image in somebody's mind, be it truth or false. You know, you know, so you know, with the Hermetic Hypothesis, I'm seeing that, you know, that was the evidence of this being true is you see it manifested, you know, when you take people and you label them black or white, or you label them according to a color and not to the name of their ancient forefathers from where they came, you know. So, and then too, the Hermetic Hypothesis also ties into certain doctrines of religion, because, you know, dealing with the Hermetic Hypothesis, you also got to take into account, you know, the political, I say, influence, you know, upon religion that, you know, certain ones was demonstrating, you know, all for their domination and control of what? Of all peoples, you know. So, and this is something that, you know, is not just unique to the United States, but it's all, you can also go further east into India, dealing with the Siddhas, about, you know, how the caste system or the classism that's established based upon the melanin or the pigmentation of an special people there too. You know, so this was a I'm gonna say an evil universal science, you know, that was exercised not only here in the US in America, but it was also exercised in India and in other places. Because whenever you define, you know, a nation of people, a human being according to a color, right? Essentially, what you're saying is you writing them into what in your definition as a piece of property, because that's another human being labeling another human being according to their own definition with their own nefarious intentions, right? Okay, so now you take that and you say, well, how does that even apply to the religious system? Like how was those hand in hand? Well, the thing is with that, when you have the colorism, the caste system, and you got, you know, people thinking that you know, the lighter I am, you know, the better, the more opportunity, prestige that one has in the society, right? That's gonna automatically make, you know, those who may not those who may have melanin or pigmentation in their skin, that's gonna make them automatically feel inferior. Why? Because those who are different, you know, from them are receiving benefits not based upon merit. It's just based strictly upon the colorism or the caste system of being classified as a white, you know, or, you know, another name in Siddha, you know, in India, you know, they had names that they would call, you know, ones that, you know, were lighter complected versus, you know, the darker complected. So, and it plays into the religious system like this, right? Because when you take that same idea and then you take, you know, you paint an image, right, of image of divinity in the likeness and the form of those same people who are receiving the benefits or whatever in society, you paint that the image of the creator as that. That's where the psychological, you know, or the religious aspect is influenced by the colorism, you know, and then you take that and you change all of the pigmentations in all descriptions, you know, of the holy ones, and you make them look like, you know, you according to your lighter complexion, then, you know, that's going to affect that. So, you know, it affected, you know, it politically, you know, religiously, socially, and economically in all areas, you know. So that Hermetic hypothesis is right on point, and it also is showing, you know, if you got eyes to see and ears to hear, it's also showing you, revealing to you how that same system is still in place, you know, because you still have even right here today, you have a class, you have a white, and then you have a black. You know, you have the haves and the have-nots. Guess who the have-nots is, and guess who the haves is? You know, that is plain to see. You know, and those are the things that I see that need to be understood, because, you know, to understand how it's affecting us spiritually as well as politically, you know, is very much so important, because if you don't see how something is harming you and you steadily clinging on to, you know, holding on to that which is, you know, detrimental to you, that means that there's a blindness somewhere. And so in that blindness, you know, if you can't see, you know, the colorism going on, then you're not looking at it, you know, with spiritual eyes to see. You looking at it from a grayscale, you know, and there's no color there. There's no, you know, you don't really see it, you know, spiritually the way that one should, you know. And that's, you know, that's my measure in regards to, you know, the Hermetic hypothesis, because that's a grand measure, and it's very much so eye-opening, and Also, I did want to add this in too. I thought about it, and I'm gonna go back just a little bit, dealing with the 18, right, and dealing with that oneness. I did want to add this. When we look at that, right, and this ties into the colorism too. When we look at that, right, certain parts of the world, right, that colorism is exercised, you also see the geographic location of those people have a particular religious system. Okay, so predominantly here in America, it's mainly Christianity and Islam, right? Well, when you go further east, is you have yoga, you have Buddhism, you have Islam, you have just all schools of thought, right? Well, when you take those schools of thought and you chop them up and you put emphasis on the elements that's going to be beneficial to the political policies or the political strategies of those who are wanting to dominate and control, that right there breaks up and causes a division, as well as gives the those who are going forth the opportunity to implement their colorism and a political strategy. Because if you can get the people to not unite amongst themselves, right, it's a division. So that means that it's a gap in between. So if it's a gap in between, that means something can come in there and infiltrate and plant all type of seeds, plant all type of hatred. And, this side over here is looking at this side over here, mean mugging, hand, tucked ready, ready to take one's life. All the while, not even realizing that one's is not even looking at each other from a divine mind. Because we're looking at our perception is being infiltrated or being influenced by the colorism or by falsehood or by false ideologies, but that goes back to that whole campaign of domination, so just understanding those things and understanding, that on the spiritual side, we have more in common, and it's really all one. All of it is one, and having that holistic thought pattern takes the blinders off of looking at something from a colorism standpoint, that's filtered through that Western mind frame or that Blumenbach, dealing with his with his cronies agenda, to dominate and control, and that's my measure in regards to that. But I just wanted to add that in there, because I seen that,
all is well for that drawing, and I see it's been a few people commenting. I wish I would have called it earlier, but a few people been commenting. I don't know, maybe a few of them may be still in here. I see 2 people still there now, but I want to address some of these measures that I see here. I see that we had one individual by the name of Zodin Cards. I think that's what his name is, or her. It states, pardon self, is it necessary to use the term like Aten when it is a derivative from the Western civilization? The only thing that one would be thinking of in regards to dealing with this would actually probably refer to the vowel E there. But the ATN, which are the consonants, actually came from the ancestors. That was their language. Now, whether you put a E, there, or whether you put an O there, actually, to be honest with you, what he is perceiving as a Western civilization, or if you're still there, many don't know that the vowels actually came from the Meroitic script of the ancient Kushites, long before the European came up with their vowel. You know, it was already in their system. You know, so we have to be careful when we begin to say these things derived from the European civilization. You know, now what they did do is they began to interpret certain things wrongly. I give you a prime example. They began to use the term gods and goddesses in reference to dealing with the Neter and Neteru, but they made it into the extent like it was dealing with polytheism. You know, the Hermetic system has always been a holistic system. And this was another way. You got to think about it. These people had no knowledge of spirituality to the degree that our ancestors was demonstrating it. So they came up with their own hypotheses. They came up with their own explanation as to what they believed, what it was that we was believing. So, they worshiping many gods. When all actuality, when you see a name like Shu, you know, you see a name like Nu, Noon, you know, Nunet, Tefnut, you know, when you see Geb, you know, all of these represent actual elements. Scientifically, this would be no different than speaking on the periodic table. The only difference is our people paid more attention to the elements and they revered creation a little bit more. So in looking at creation, they gave honors and they had names and classifications. So Aten, you know, would go back to dealing with the expression that deals with who our people referred to when they looked at the sun disk. You know, Ra was also another form of dealing with this aspect of Aten. You know, it's a connection, you know. So also I see, well, one said in our flag icon, you can see multiple discs, yet it is not Aten, in which natural man's alphabet we can look at the symbol, you know, and I don't know exactly what they were saying there, but I guess they saying they got a flag with multiple discs in it, I guess similar to that of the Aten, you know, and so forth and so on. Okay, all is well. We had another brother in here who said, well, we all share the same common goal, but people want to take their own way. I couldn't agree with that more. That's right. Everybody think that they too grown to learn. Everybody want to go in different directions and so forth and so on. You know, everybody want to create something and be the first that did this. And that's what's we falling by climbing, basically. You know, even though we striving and climbing toward the same destination, we trying to reach the same pinnacle of success, which is unity, you know, but we continue to fall by climbing. Because like you say, you have people who want to take their alternate routes or whatever the case may be, as opposed to everybody moving with minds for the same cause, having efforts for the same goals, you know, and so forth and so on. I see the brother was talking about a dot in the center of a circle. He's still talking about it, what he was speaking of earlier. Then he said, pardon me, there are other glyphs with these ray type hands adorning the thing. Okay, pardon me then. I thought you was going towards actual fact and not making take a simply branch organization to a root reason to unify. So, you know, we have situations like this right here too. Where we trying to come into a point of unity and our people look for petty things, you know, just to have something to talk about and go back and forth. And this is why I say all the time, before we can go into the unity, you know, the conflict come on to manifest, you know, and once you have conflict there, you can't even reach the destination because everybody arguing about which route we need to take as opposed to moving straight forward and getting the job done, so to speak. And our brother Hawk L, we want to give honors to him if he's still in here. I think he is. Honors to your family. You know, this is the first live stream that we did. We're gonna have more of these coming up. You know, we want to sit down with people that have the same thought and same mind, even though they may be of different schools of thought. This is what this platform is about. You know, the meeting of the minds and the bridging of the gaps. And we finna touch on that. So gratitude to your brother. And we agree, you know, Yeah, it's a lot of so-called whitewashing going on, and if they really knew the definition of that word, they'll know, whitewashing on a whole nother level really had to do with a spiritual aspect more than dealing with somebody trying to claim that as their nationality or pigmentation. So honors to you, brother Hawk, you know, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We all striving, and we will meet at that special place. So we give honors to you for everything that you are doing as well, family. And we want to go into this special portion now. Bridging is actually bridging the gaps, So we want to get into the bridging of the gaps, so to speak, right? And when we go into the bridging of the gaps, we got to understand where the division came from. When we talk about bridging the gaps, we got to understand where the division came from. How did we get to this special state? Now, we already showed you basically the unity. We showed you how divine prophets and warners or guru, master teachers, we're using all of these terminologies because some of our people grasp a hold to one of these particular terms when it comes to these masterminds or whoever it is that came to uplift them. Master teacher, all of that. We accept all of that. So we went into the Hermetic Hypotheses, and also eugenics was also a part of that as well. Our people really need to study that. There's a documentary out there called the Ma'afa 21. So if you get a chance to watch the Ma'afa 21, the word Ma'afa is a Swahili word which means the great suffrage. Check that particular documentary out because it's a grand draw and it shows you the effects of the Hermetic Hypotheses and how it evolved into the eugenics in the same lineage of European scholars and leadership pretty much had their hands in that as well. That's a whole nother measure. We'll probably do a whole broadcast on that in the future. But bridging the gaps, what is the bridge? Among all of these different religious beliefs, these teachings, what is the gap? Well, we know the bridge really has to do with love first and foremost. It has to do with unity. That's the main aspect of bridging the gap. We got to be dealing with love. We got to be dealing with unity. We have in our paradigm what we call a holy covenant. And that holy covenant is pretty much that which bind us in our love and unity to each other. And we're not just talking about those who are part of the body that we are part of. We're talking about, all of our people. So if this is the case, then the foundation for unity is already present. It's just that we are not taking it upon ourselves to demonstrate in that special light. So I want to talk first and foremost about what we call the Piscean records or the Bible. What is the gap that caused, for example, Muslims to be in opposition to Christian to be in opposition to Muslims? Also, let's just say certain Jews to be in opposition to Christian to be in opposition to Jews. What is the gap there? What causes the division between even certain denominations within certain religious groups and so forth and so on? Well, I tell you first and foremost, one of the conflicts came when you deal with the biblical controversy is that being that we were brought over here into the West and we know how we received the Bible, it was given to us, under slavery. That's how we came into contact with it. We didn't know anything about it prior to our enslavement. And so once we were enslaved, we had to read the book the way that we were taught to read it. In fact, at first, if you even got caught doing it, you could be killed, hung, lynched. Even your slave master would get punished, for allowing this, fined and everything. So the whole key is that we were never supposed to read nothing anyway. We ain't had no business reading. We didn't have no business trying to do nothing that had to do with exercising our thought. And you'll hear that basically demonstrated in a popular statement right now where they say, well, you don't get paid to think. And so forth. Let me do the thinking. This is what people end up saying. So the conflict is the way that we were taught. We were taught, serve and obey your master, basically love your enemy. These are things that everybody know now. So we ain't got to go into all of those, the detail of that. But nevertheless, these are some of the things that were given to us. And this is all we had after our original way of life was took from us. After we was took away from our homeland, stripped of our culture, stripped of our nationality, stripped of our divine creed, stripped of everything that made us a whole person. Because, we got to deal with the law. Because under law, we know that we were considered 3/5 of a human being. So what is it that make you 5/5? If 3/5 make you, a subhuman, so to speak, according to being chattel property and so forth, somebody owning you, having rights of ownership over you, then the 3/5 was just basically dealing with the mind, body, and the soul. You see? So they had the body, and through the fear that had been instilled in our people, they got the mind. And we know that the soul is an apparatus of its own, but the soul has actions. But the soul can't act. We say that the actions of the soul are thinking, willing, reasoning, understanding, and remembrance. So you can't think, will, reason, understand, and remembrance when somebody has control over you, when somebody is dictating what you better think and what you better not think. And this actually becomes ingrained in your way of life to where you think it's natural. You begin to accept this as the norm. And so when you run into something else outside, it's almost like a culture shock. It's almost like, man, this can't be true. You mean to tell me real freedom? No, that ain't right, especially if master didn't say so. And so these are the things that we had to be confronted by. So if it's 3/5 of a human being that makes one, subhuman, meaning that if it's mishandled, by somebody else, somebody possess you, possess your mind, possess your body, your soul action, your ability to think, will, reason, understand, and remember who you are, then the only thing that can bring you back into a consciousness of yourself is going back to what it is that you were. But you have to be taught. Someone has to have a knowledge base that you can tap into in order to come into the consciousness of who you was, or rather who you really is. So the other 2/5, because in all actuality, the whole person, a natural person, consists of 5/5. The 2/5 that we lacked was nationality and divine creed. You see? And this is where this is even an issue right now. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We don't want to go into that just yet. We just want to touch on some of the things that happened and took place dealing with these gaps. So this shows you what a gap in our mind came from and how we were basically, religion was used to enslave us or subjugate us. And so much so to where when the truth come back around of that which is actually practiced by our ancestors, we begin to look at it as if it is the lie. You see? So basically what took place when, I know everybody's seen the movie Roots. We seen Kunta Kinte and, how all these things transpired, how this one foot was cut off from trying to run. They was constantly trying to beat, the Kunta out of him and beat the Toby into him and so forth and so on. And just basically slave breaking, because you got to remember, you got slave breakers, you got slave makers, you got slave holders, you got slave catchers, you got slave masters. You know, all of these represent, you know, even individuals in this present time. You know, so who would be the slave breaker in this new era and time? It would have to be those who are exercising some type of authority, you know, are trying to put the fear of God in you, right? Breaking your will, right? To resist, breaking your will, you know, to basically try to be, as they call it, a free thinker. You see what I'm saying? So that would be the slave breaker. You know, the slave maker, you know, is right there on the same manifest. You know, their duty is to make you the slave. Now you done been broke. Now you got to be taught how to be a slave. You got to be trained how to be a slave. That's slave making, right? So you got your slave breaker, your slave maker, you know, you got your slave catchers. You know, these represent people that look like you, or they represent people that are of another national, that are people that look like you, that have the mind of those people who are out to enslave or catch you. You see? So when you go into dealing with the slave master, this is the one that's reaping the benefits from all of this. You see? But there's a process that, you know, takes place. So I just wanted to touch on those things. So all of these things took place under the auspices of, you know, someone using religion, fear, you know, all types of tactics to break us and bring us into a state to where we no longer value ourselves. We no longer see ourselves as a people. And hence then you accept the condition of being identified. You know how I say it ain't about what they call you, is what you answer to. So we accept the identity of being labels of what somebody else called us. You see? So knowing that we came from a rich culture, knowing that we came from kings and queens and so forth and so on, we can see now how we failed. This was a gradual process. You know, it didn't happen overnight. And it's still going on right now. We still see the same thing being implemented, you know, just in different ways. And just like we are trying to now come into a mastery of ourselves, you know, the oppressor is looking for different ways to master you even more. You see, they're looking for ways to subjugate you even more. You see? So the conflict, when you deal with the beefs between the Quran and the Bible, the books actually don't have beef with each other. You know, there's no Quran and Bible going to war with each other. You know, there's no Quran and Bible shed no blood. You know, it is those who have received, you know, the particular teachings and the way that they have been taught in their own interpretations who begin to deviate from the messages of these particular ones that came to them, those rays of divinity that came to them. You see, it ain't the books that's beefing. You don't see, you know, Muhammad, you know, and Isa going to fisticuffs with each other. You don't see Moses, you know, trying to punch Abraham lights out and upset with him about what he demonstrated. You know, so these things just don't happen. We don't see a record of it, at least, right? So what is the bridge? The gap is that most of the people that study in the Bible, they think that because they were taught the way they were taught, you know, Jesus is God, you know, he is the Most High. Even if you go and look into the book, he never took high titles. He ran from high titles. Even when people tried to worship him, he would tell them, you know, that basically, you know, he was there to serve them, basically, in so many words, to paraphrase. He never tried to take, you know, the honor for himself. And it's the way that we were taught. And then the image they put him in. They give us the cousin of Leonardo da Vinci, you know, and then they say, well, this is Jesus right here. Now you worshiping a European on a stick. You see what I'm saying? What happened to the image that was described in the actual Piscean records in the Bible? His, you know, tone being the color of brass and bronze. That's melanated. So how is it that one read these things for years and they can't even see that part. I remember watching an episode of Good Times with a sister, Flora Evans. She was on there, and Michael brought a picture of what he called at that time. They used the term Black Jesus, but he was a melanated brother. She said, "This looked like, the individual bomb down there on the corner." And so things start coming in, blessings in the house, and everybody was happy. And she was trying to convince them out of this particular picture being on the wall because she was used to seeing that European Jesus up there, right? So it came on the last time, and it was a last straw, as she seen the last situation of one coming in there talking about, "Oh, I got this blessing." She was basically like, no. She like to have a nervous breakdown, basically, because she just couldn't accept, this image as being the man that she knew of as a Jesus. And this is the state of mind that most of our people, are in, because they are looking at the image, of another individual. And the European did that purposely for the same reason that they did it with everything else. This was done to divert us away from ourselves and teach us to have hatred toward ourselves. And it don't even feel right to see an image with you up there because you so used to seeing that European up there. Buttermilk complected, blonde hair, blue-eyed, expression. And we don't say this to be hateful or in opposition. We telling you what it is. So moving along the lines, when Islam came on the manifest and the Quran later, conflict is already in the doctrine, not between the book itself, but from those who interpret it. You had those who call themselves today Jews, they say they come from that special line. And they would say, well, Ishmael didn't get the blessing, and it was Isaac and the seed of Israel that got the blessing. And so, and even the Quran would tell you that, the Israelites are the chosen people. It doesn't deny that, but if you go also in the same Bible, it tells you as well that Ishmael would beget a great nation as well. So if you're going to accept God and his commandments, then you should be able to accept the fact that Ishmael would be a great nation according to God's blessing, even though he wasn't called so-called the chosen one, like, the Israelites were. It's still a blessing from God. You see, so if you see those who came from his lineage, then even though you are who you are, you should also honor the blessing that God gave through them. Because also, technically, if you want to say that those who were covered under the covenant, and Isaac had his particular covenant, and you look at Ishmael's covenant was also there too because he was circumcised. And that was a covenant that had to do with an everlasting covenant. That put him on a covenant as well. Just as even before the Abrahamic covenant, you also had a covenant known as the Noahic covenant. Because a lot of people say the people that was before that time, well, they wasn't under the covenant, but though they were. The Hamites was under the Noahic covenant, basically. And that was a perpetual covenant. So these are things that our people have to investigate, and these are points that deal with contention if one has no knowledge, or if you're going off a Eurocentric expression of it. But if you study it, you see that the people are actually more, they have more in common. They are more unified than they are divided. So these are points that I wanted to touch on as to where some of the divisions come from. So it's not strange when you see the Quran come on the manifest, through Prophet Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then you see him say, oh, that book there ain't got nothing to do with the Most High, and so forth and so on. Oh, Allah is not the supreme being. But yet if you go to a Christian, in that particular region, they still use the same name, Allah. So how is that not the same creator? Even the name Yahweh. Some people say Yod He Wav He, or some people say Yahuwah, right? At the root of the YHWH, or what people like to call the tetragrammaton. This same expression is even in the Arabic language. Yahuwah is one of the names that the sages or the Sufis use in expression, and it's rooted in the word Ohi. Ohi, that is basically Huhi, which actually goes back to a Comedian root, which is Huhi. And when you actually turn, if you were to look at Yod He Wav He backwards, that's actually what it would become, Huhi. You see, so everything can pretty much be traced back into the Comedian realm, but you can see a bridge there. You know, if you have the heart to sympathize, and if you're truly seeking unity and oneness among your people, right? So from that aspect right there, that's enough to show me that, okay, you know, God is one and the world is one. Even if you look at the word Allah, for example, and we did this in one of our classes not long ago. That is special word. If you take the word that is known in the box Hebrew, that you see modern Hebrew script, and you turn it upside down, and it looks just like Allah. If you take the word Om, that deal with the Sanskrit, and you take the letters and formulate them in such a way, they formulate, you know, the name Allah. So this is across the cultures. Not saying that you got to say, okay, Allah, this and that. We're just showing you the connections between these cultures. Even the name Allah is in what they would call Hebrew, which we know is really Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. You see, it's only spelled different. It's spelled A-H-L-A-H. Allah. You see? So we have been taught in the West to be divided, but these are some of the things that unite, even dealing with the language. You hear the Muslims say, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuhu, right? And then if you look at our brother Yeshua, Isa, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, Yehoshua, however you want to refer to him, he stated to his disciples, peace be unto you. You know, in that language, that would have been Shalom Aleichem. Just different dialect, but they still saying peace be unto you. So that's proof of the connection. The language is enough to show the unity between them. You see the word Islam, but then you see the word Salam, which is where Jerusalem comes from, or Shalom. You see where the H is there. So they both mean peace, just different dialects in expressing it. So this is the bridge that unite these people, as opposed to those things that divide them. You know, so that's just one aspect of a division in regards to dealing with the Piscean records. And I'm going to pass it to my brother after I make this statement. Also, you have those who follow the path of what they call Judaism, and they have a different interpretation. Some of them believe that a Messiah hasn't even arrived yet. You see, there are books out there like the Codex Sinaiticus, or there are books that have not yet been translated, and it's actually the oldest Bible of the world, the Codex Sinaiticus. They found one copy in Turkey, and the Vatican got one. But I know for a fact that the reason they have yet to translate these texts is because they say they don't support the present text. They don't support the crucifixion. You know, they don't have that in those particular texts, so that's why they don't want to translate them. If you get a chance and you're listening to us, look these things up and you'll see that we ain't pulling your leg. Everything that I'm saying can be looked up. You can fact check it and so forth and so on. And if you ever requested, if you down there in the chats and you want to come on here, we can bring you on here also and have a dialogue, but we strictly about bridging the gaps. You know, we don't want to go back and forth with the debates. It's enough debate platforms and debate leagues going on out here. We want to strictly deal with contentions, points of that deal with unity. You see, points that deal with unity. And if we can do that, then all is well. So also the Judaism doctrine that you have, like I said, you have some don't believe the Messiah came because they say he wasn't militant enough. You know, they say the Jesus that they talk about in the Bible was soft in their mind. That's how they thinking now. You know, you have the Gospel of Barnabas. You know, and Barnabas was one of the followers. Some people say that's a pseudo book. And I find it quite funny that every time a book come on the manifest, that is not Eurocentric, they use the term pseudo. You see, and they use this term to alienate you. For example, the book of Jasher, it's a pseudo book, they say. The book of Enoch, it's a pseudo book, they say. But all actuality, these are books that have been held in safekeeping by the Coptics. And the Coptics are our people. So I find it strange, but not too strange, that every time a book come on the manifest that the Copts had in their possession, it's automatically considered pseudo. And see, now we have our people adopting this same mentality because the Europeans said it's pseudo or it ain't real. We accept that without doing our own research. Now, if you do the research and you see for a fact that's what it is, and that's what it is. But don't take this European for everything that they're saying as being factual. You got to do your own research. You know, a wise man, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for example, in our body told us, once we get the pen in our hand, you know, he said, we write the history. You see what I'm saying? And all of us should be doing this. It shouldn't be just those who demonstrate along the line of Moors writing the history. You know, if those who study in the Hebrew Israelite community are on the manifest, they should rewrite their history according to their narrative, not the narrative that was given to them, you know, over here by, you know, the same way the Christian preachers may have taught it to us. You know, if it's a Muslim over here, then they shouldn't be demonstrating their teaching, you know, the way the Arabs demonstrated it to them. If it's Moors over here, then they shouldn't be demonstrating being a Moor the way the Europeans brought it to them. If it's Christians over here amongst our people, they shouldn't be demonstrating the way that the European taught them. Write your own history. Do your research. Because this is what sustains a people. History sustains a people. You know, so that's my special portion that I wanted to talk about in regards to dealing with bridging the gap, just dealing with the books first. And we're going to get into some of these groups in a minute as well. We're going to show you how we can bridge the gaps between them. But these are the simple bridges. And then also in the Quran, it also says that Jesus was neither killed nor crucified, but it was made to look at it as if it was such. You know, and this is one of the contentions that you see a gap. You know, where's the bridge in that? It's telling you that somebody was up there on this particular cross, but it wasn't Yahushua. It said it was made to look as if it was such. But he was neither killed nor crucified. That's what the Quran say, right? This is one of the beefs that go on between Christians and Muslims. My thing, I always wondered, I say, well, when I was studying the Piscean records of the Bible, I like, well, why do we, you know, praise the aspect of the act of him being harmed if he was supposed to be immortal? You know, what is there? You know, no, we ain't going to that one immortal. He immortal. You can't kill him. But I understand the narrative as how one was taught and so forth and so on and everything like that. But the resurrection doctrine existed in Kemet 5,000 years before, you know, the Piscean records of the Bible, or what we call basic instruction before leaving Earth, came on the manifest. So when you go into that history, our people just have to rewrite the history, get the pen in their hand and do the work. But the Gospel of Barnabas actually, I would say, bridged the gap between the Muslim doctrine and the Christian doctrine. You know, because the Gospel of Barnabas, not only does it speak of one being crucified, but it said that Jesus' personage was placed over Judas's personage. You know, or we can say the illusion was placed over the minds of the people, so much so to where his likeness was placed on him and his likeness was placed on him. And it was said that he escaped the death plot in the Gospel of Barnabas. So it makes sense if you reflect upon the Quran when it say he was not killed or crucified. It was made to look at it as if it was such. And even in the Gospel of Barnabas, his parents and the disciples that was following him, they was basically asking him, because he asked, you know, God, because they say he was took up in third heaven, so to speak, and the angels had took him into safekeeping. And he was brought back to the manifest after he requested, you know, to see his people, because the Quran say he was raised up to him. So all this coincides, but it's bridging the gap between the biblical teaching and the Quranic teaching. So when he came back, his mother asked him, why was it that you made us hurt so much, and suffer by thinking that was you up there, and his disciples are like, man, these people don't even want to believe in your doctrine no more. Everybody done left. Like, what is this? And he told him, he said it was that God would repay, your affliction and your sorrow. He would do that in this world so that you won't have to basically be punished in the next world. So he made you believe basically that I was up there. I was the one that died. I suffered, but it was really Judas, is what he said. He said my likeness was placed over him so that he would suffer the wrath of a misdeed that he was trying to basically plot against another with. So he was digging a ditch for him, but basically he fell in it. That's basically what he was saying. And so he said that there will be people, that won't believe, and they gonna believe that he was up there on that cross. And these are the ones that basically have been misled. He said, this is what he's saying in the text. He said that the devil has a particular hold on their consciousness, and you're gonna only have a few that's gonna really come into the conception. But then he told them, I'm not the Messiah that the whole world expects. So you got to remember the word Messiah, was applied to kings, even in the Piscean records. We only made the term Messiah as exclusively to our brother, but he spoke. He said, I am not the Messiah whom the whole world expects. And that makes sense because in the Bible, he said he was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It talk about 144,000 being delivered. If you go into the book of Revelations, it speaks of the Lamb delivering 144,000. So people say, well, why is it then? Where would we come in if that's the case? His message was meant to be received by the world, but his specific mission was to that particular people that he was dealing with. So in the book of Revelation, chapter 14, you will find that they speak of a messenger or an angel, and angels always manifest themselves in the form of man in most cases in the Bible. They say he was coming with the everlasting gospel to preach to those who was on the earth. This would be the next messenger coming behind him. Now, if you go into the Bible, it speaks of him saying that, it's expedient that he go away. Because if he don't leave, then the comforter will not come. So he's speaking of one, but how would you know a comforter? And he also say the spirit of truth would come, the Holy Spirit. How would you be able to know a spirit was on the manifest if it wasn't in the body of a man? I mean, you ain't thinking that the Holy Spirit gonna come and it's just floating around you somewhere. You see what I'm saying? So what is it that you would be seeing? Some people say, well, it meant we receive the spirit in our heart. But if you read it carefully, you will see he was speaking of a personage. And in certain translation, they say paraclete, as one who's coming after another. And they use the term Ahmad will come. So in the Gospel of Barnabas, it confirmed. He said, I'm not the Messiah whom the whole world expects. And they was asking me, well, who is this particular one that's coming? And he said, well, when God created him, he created him from the beginning of time. His soul, was this the splendor of the heavens and so forth and so on. And then he said, wait, oh Muhammad. Muhammad is his blessed name. This is what it said in the Gospel of Barnabas now. And this ain't stuff I'm making up. Go and read it if you're watching this broadcast or if you watch it later on. He said Muhammad. So now the Catholic Church had this doctrine. So ask yourself, why did they reject this from the books? Why did they cast this out of the biblical text? Why did they throw this away? They did it, for a great reason, because it was in their convenience to not tell the people the truth, basically. They can keep people divided. But if people had that particular bridge, then it would unite the people and you wouldn't see so much conflict and bloodshed and war. Never let the criminal describe the crime, because they're going to misappropriate the truth every time. So with that being said, I want to call my brother for and let him give his special portion. We got a few more items here that we want to go through, and we're going to try to scan through them a little quicker so that we can bring this measure to a close. So I just wanted to give that portion, brother. And what have you to say about the bridging of the gaps? Because, see, I see unity all over the place. I don't see the division that most people see right now. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. All right. Bridging the gap, man. That's what I see also. I see that, even dealing with the religious system, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna go about it like this. Okay, and this is something, I thought about. I'm gonna take the Hebrew religion and yoga, right? And I'm gonna use this symbol, the menorah candle, right? When you look at the menorah candle that's on the IUIC on their logo, right? It's 7 candles, right? Now, most people, when they think about that candle, they think about, you ask them, man, what is, and, that was something that the priest had, that he would carry with him, or that was sitting on the altar, the table in the most holy of holies, on the altar. But, he would carry a one in his hand whenever he went back and behind the veil, and it was a rope tied on his leg just in case, he fell down, he wasn't impure. He was impure while going behind the veil. Okay. So when you look at that menorah candle, it's 7 candlesticks on that menorah candle. Most people, they just think that that's just something, that's just up there, not really understanding the spiritual significance on how it relates to the self. 7, is a divine number. It's a perfect number. But it also corresponds with, that those candles correspond with those spiritual centers that's within your own body. Because remember, we're a living temple. So you say, so one might ask, well, how does that relate to the Hebrew Israelites and the Hebrew, that whole religious system, Judaism and yoga? Well, in yoga, they talk about the activations of the chakra. The chakra is the 7 energy centers that's up and down, that's sent up and down your spine. Go all the way up and into your mind. So, when you look at these things, you're looking at these things on a physical level, but not taking into consideration what it means on the inside, what the inner meaning of it is. Because, see, you got a teaching that's an exoteric, meaning the outer teaching, and then you got an esoteric, meaning that's the inner teaching. That's like what the physical represents dealing with the self or the spiritual. Those are aspects of divinity and teachings that those two school of thoughts have in common. Dealing with that, with the chakra system and the menorah, because the menorah was an example of that which was spiritual. That's why they put it in the temple. That's why they put it in a temple where ones was worshiping that. Not because it was a physical temple, because what they were trying to teach us that this was something that we were to do within ourselves. We got lamps in ourselves, and another aspect of, that's another aspect of bridging the gaps is in unity and unifying in our schools of thought is understanding the unity between, I'm gonna say, Islam and the balancing of chi, or the martial arts, right? Okay, now these schools of thoughts, the balancing of the chi, that deals with honing that energy, harnessing it, not allowing your passions, to overrule you to where, you get mad now, you just ready to, go all crazy, Well, how does that relate to Islam? Well, we know in our Islam, you learn to what? Fast. You learn to control your appetites. Why do you do that? What's the use of fasting? because it helps you balance your chi. It helps you harness that spiritual energy. When you practice these practices of abstinence, these are the keeping that seed, in your body, the sperma or the logos, because that's another word too. That's in the Piscean records. The logos. Another word for logos is sperma. When you keep these things inside your body, right, and you hone them and you harness them, it builds up that spiritual energy. Upon you fasting, you learn how to control these things. Why is that important? Well, you learn how to control these things because remember, this is the living temple. We the living temple. So when you govern and you master yourself, then you become a mastermind. Then you become the Christ. That's what Yehoshua sought to teach. That's what he was bringing us. He said, what he did, you gonna do, and even greater works. You see what I'm saying? So, all of these schools of thought or schools of religion have aspects of divinity, right? It's all one and they're all needed. But the interpretation of them shouldn't be from a division aspect as if it's separate when it's not. Because at one point in time, all of it was one. Because remember, we got to take it back to Kemet. The Islamism, so when they were invaded and ones had to go, in hiding, and practice the same religion, practice that same religion under a cloak form so they wouldn't be persecuted or killed. Because there was some that wanted these holy men killed. Why? Because they knew that they would be a threat to their plans of domination and control, and so one's got to go in hiding and continue to fulfill the mission, but put the truth in these schools of thought, the way that the traditions and this religion and the truth can continue to go on, So looking at it from, I say, go take it to yoga and Islam, right? Okay, when you looking at Islam, right, it speaks about a lot of the times about courtesy, about what your relationships, with your family members, your relationships with your family, extended families, a lot of our your cousin, your brothers, our aunties, our uncles, how to deal even with their significant others and their spouses. Right? It talks about don't engage in certain activities, with your wife's sister, or just things that we know not to do common sense wise. Now, how does that relate to yoga? Because in yoga, you learn to steal your mind. You learn to control your thought patterns. So if you govern your mind, you're gonna be fulfilling the same law that's within the Grand Quran. That the Prophet Muhammad brought, peace and blessings be upon him. So it all goes hand to hand. Whenever whenever it goes off into how to clean yourself, right? All of these things were ritualistic aspects of worship to show you your own divinity. You should wash your body, to make sure that you won't be offensive to nobody else, and at the same time too, how is that connected to yoga? Because in yoga, you still in your mind, right? And you are allowing, that cleanliness and that purity to flow forth. You don't want to be uncomfortable when you sitting in a prayer position and, you all slippery and tight spots and can't, it's not going to work. So it's a holistic system that's actually connected that proves that we have more in common than we do, dissimilarities. Hold on. I just hit this thing. Hold on. Real quick. I'm trying to slide on. Okay. So, looking at these things, right, and understanding them, looking at these things and understanding, what what was actually taught, also is I'm gonna say it's an element that keeps us divided, because a lot of the time, just think about it. Think about they have a term called occupationally neglect. So when you look at, most of us work 8 hours a day. By the time we get off, we ain't really got time. We don't really be feeling like, studying and different things like that, right? So you have a lack of knowledge on what, the truth that was set forth. And then you have, those who, may not necessarily have the time or the energy to do it, taking into consideration, the diet also. They are taking the religious authorities, word for it, be it the preacher man, be it the imam, or be it the sheikh or whoever, and then, a lot of the times, these ones may have loyalties that lie to other organizations who are benefiting off of the carnage. So then what? So it's like, we're going around the mountain, and we're going around circles in the mountain, never seeing the unity that we all have, and how the similarities that would cause us to unite instead of staying divided and looking at each other all upside the head. These are the things that must be addressed. And, in our religion, if it's true religion, these are the things that our religion will reveal unto us to show us the truth in regards to ourselves so that we might correct that. But if you don't see the truth, in yourself, because, you looking at it from a egotistical standpoint, right? Then that same perpetual mind frame will continue to go on. And so then what? Then you become complacent. You become complacent in your own destruction, your own enslavement. And you might say, how you become complacent? Man, I'm good. I'm straight. Like, I got my stuff, I got my house, my car, I got this, I got that. Yeah, I'm good, right? However, the same people that look like you is getting dogged out in the street, right? All because of what? Blindness, ego, not bridging the gap, not working together on a community level, family level, and it keeps that divide, because of lack of knowledge, the doctrines, and then the motive of those who are leading the congregations and who they may have ties to, be it certain religious sects or, certain fraternal organizations or sororities. A lot of these things, have caused a division too. And so in understanding, that, the love is key, and also understanding that in order to unify, the perception should be how we more alike versus, well, you didn't, at my church, we don't, the pastor don't, we don't usually sing, at the beginning of the service. We usually start, with prayer. Well, at my church, we start with the singing first, then we pray, or vice versa. All of these little minor disagreements, and then not really having an in-depth knowledge of any of the schools of thought. You going based off of what somebody told you, but you ain't even took time to really look at it. You ain't really took time to see how it's unified. So bridging the gap, I want to touch into on the bloodline too, because I want to touch on dealing with that dealing with the Hebrew, the Israelite bloodline and that Moorish bloodline, right? Now, the connection between the two is right here. When you look at Yehoshua's grandmother, which was Ruth, she was a Moabitess who ended up, having a child with Boaz, who had Obed. I think it was Obed, Obadiah, one of them. I want to say it's Obed. Okay, Obadiah, one of them. I know it's an O. But when, from there, you can retrace the lineage back to, all the way to Jesus. But then go a little bit further and then say, well, what did that one say that was sent amongst us, that looked like us, that was born under the same conditions as us? What did he say? He said, you are descendants of the ancient Moabites. Who was the Moabites? The grandmother to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And the mother is where the child sits in the womb, for 9 months. So we can't discredit her, although the father does carry the seed, have the seed to bring forth the child. But it's the mother that has, everything that the child needs in order to sustain it, and that's important too, because that bloodline with Yehoshua having that Moabite bloodline, right? That's significant because it's showing that we are kin. Now, with us being kin, right? How is that gonna benefit us today? I'm gonna show you how it benefits us today by this right here, because actually, we are one people, same bloodline flowing through us, same father and the mother. But this is the thing, though. See, with our ancient bloodline, our Moorish American bloodline, and us being kin to the Israelites, the keys have been released and the seal has been broken. So with all of us who've been denationalized as Negroes, it wasn't until Noble Drew Ali came that and taught the importance of nationality that we even began to understand how we were enslaved according to those names. So now that we know who we are, now we got what on the manifest? Now we got status. Why? Because you done connected yourself back to, your ancient forefathers. Now you honoring your mother and your father, right? You're not just honoring your father, you honoring your mother and your father. Cause see, when Noble Drew Ali brought our ancient heritage back, right? He brought the bloodline to the grandmother too. She was a Moabitess. And then take into consideration this too. Judah had children by a Canaanite. But according to, certain schools of thought, certain people who teach a certain doctrine, right? They say that the Canaanites was accursed. Well, if the Canaanites was accursed, why did Judah go off and go into them and have daughters? And most of the holy men, they had, wives and children amongst those special people who were in that area, that Canaan land area. What was it? Ugartha, that what they speak Ugarthic. They all spoke that same. It was the same language going on around it. I mean, going on around that area. So you see now, hopefully, you see the connection in the bloodline that we have. So the plight that we in today, is this right here. Everybody that's been labeled Negro, colored, or black, of being of Moorish bloodline, right? We can trace ourselves back to that Israelite bloodline because our bloodline go all the way back to Jesus. But in today's time, when they were calling them Hebrews back then, as they wrote it in the Piscean records, is Negro today. So the deliverance part or the salvation part or the freedom part comes into honoring your mother and your father. And your mother's blood, a portion of your mother's bloodline was that Moabite bloodline. You see what I'm saying? So that's where the nationality comes in now, dealing with the United States and the conditions and stuff that we're in. From here, we can fight from a sure position. Now we got something to challenge them with, because when you look at those who call themselves Jews, right, or Israelites, some of them have I'm gonna say some of them are what do you call it, Zionists. Some of them had that that Zionist bloodline in them. And I think that a lot of our brothers and sisters in as far as a part of the Hebrew Israelite nation, right? I don't think we've really ever sat down to have an honest dialogue in regards to our connection and the divinity that's been brought forth. Because from here, right, most times I got a brother, one of my cousins, he's a captain in the IUIC. But most times whenever I build with the brother and I try to go off into these lessons of divinity, it's only on a surface level. Because one may have the custom down of having fringes on your clothes or not eating certain foods, but not understanding why you're doing it. That's the difference. To do something and then know why you're doing it, that gives you a profound understanding on what you're doing. See, a lot of the times we don't understand that it's the dietary law was enforced because the great God and our forefathers knew that we were dealing with a temple. So, if you don't know the law that governs the temple, if you put stuff in the temple and it causes the temple to clog up and it won't function properly, you can't never arise and be, just like your father, who we were all made in the image and after the likeness of. Why? Because of not understanding, why we are applying the law. Not following the law just because it said it, but understanding why. We got to understand why we're doing these things. See what I'm saying? We got to understand, why did Jesus say he was a carpenter? Why? He said he was a carpenter because, and he took upon those, that their father's task is because just as well as he was building physical dwellings for people, he was also building inner dwellings for people. He also built the temple of perfected man. So within, even though, he was working with his compass and his square, in the buildings, but he also did it on the inside. And these are the portions of the understanding that will bridge the gap, between the Moors, between the Israelites, between the Nation of Islam, you know what I'm saying? Between those who practice al-Islam, because we all have portions, right? And portions and measures that completes the body. And even in then, so a lot of us have gifts, gifts that, is given specifically to certain ones to do a specific task or a duty. You see? So that's that's bridging the gap. It's seeing the similarities and then understanding why. Why is that bloodline important? Why is why are we fasting? Why are we not supposed to put certain coughs and stuff on our skin? Because it's dealing with science, and you dealing with cancer, and the great God is love. So in all aspects of life, he wants us to be healthy. He want the best for us. The great God want the best for us. And so understanding these things is gaining a clear conception on why. And it's also, opening up chambers in ourselves to, so we can better express our divinity and be more in tune with the divine. Instead of saying, we this, we that, now we demonstrating it. Because right now, at this point in time, we at a point in time now to where the demonstration has to come forth. Being able to transmute, leave the body, being able to have clairvoyance, telepathy, all of these spiritual gifts come through understanding the unity of all of the schools of thought. This is how we bridge the gap. Just imagine if just imagine us having our nation of people, being able to transmute, have all of these spiritual gifts, that Yehoshua had, and we bringing these forth to where we're moving stuff with these things are possible. And these things, and these gifts in these religious systems, this is what they designed to do. It's designed to bring these things forth. I know it because I done tapped into them, intermittently here and there. So I know it's real, but these are the things that, certain ones don't want to get out. Why? Because now they can't benefit off of you. Now they can't eat your flesh if you operating at the God status or as a god and a goddess. They can't eat you. They can't eat off of you no more. And then you being love, we gonna govern ourselves. And charity begins at home. That means taking care of our own before we venture outside. That means that the dollar is gonna continue to circle in our communities. All of that, but we got to understand the unity that we all have, and that key is heeding the brother that was born amongst us. A lot of the times, we perceive ourselves based upon negativities that we may have endured in the past. So y'all heard that saying, that NIGGA ain't, or he ain't nothing. He ain't, or she ain't nothing. Not knowing that the soul is perfect even in the bosom of a fool. So although a person may be displaying these type of characteristics and behavior right now, you never know. A word, he might could get a word and it make that light come on, and that's a whole you got a whole transformation. He or she is no longer the same. Then what? One is being enlightened, and that's something that, I see as far as our perception towards one another. So if we looking at one another like that, right? Other ones can see that. So guess what they gonna do? They gonna put something together, bake this cake over here, come in amongst, and here, take this. Boom, the whole time, they planning to subjugate and rule and keep us divided. And ones is, voting on whether or not they gonna allow us to participate in their system. And we steady fighting amongst each other on how we could go about participating in their system. You know what I'm saying? Never understanding that we got all power and authority amongst ourselves as a collective. But we can only do it through love, and we can only unify through love and unity. Other than that, because the ego gonna be in the way if you don't. You're gonna be trying to find something wrong versus, seeing what the similarity is between your brother and your sister. Loving them, in spite of. Soon as you see, understanding their spirituality and what all of these religious schools of thought was designed to do. Is love yourself, honor thy neighbor, honor thy neighbor, love thyself, and love the great God with all thy heart, and in that, right, you begin to want to do things, want to uplift, want to help, want to be of aid and assistance. You don't want to do anything that's harmful. Why? Because you going against, you violating your religious law. You know what I'm saying? And then doing these things and exercising, your meditation or whatever form of religion. Some people might study, some people might exercise, whatever it is, but we participate in these things to stay in our higher self, and understanding that, this physical composition, this body is to be of aid, and is to aid the higher self. This physical composition is here to make sure it does what it needs to do on this earth plane, so that the higher self or your God self can stay on the throne and rule. according to love, you know. But if the mind frame is they believe this or they believe that, how you know what them people believe? If you ain't never studied it and you taking the word of somebody else, you know, who giving you something, that they got from some seminary or some type of religious organization that gave them a certificate. So they telling you about another and because they've been indoctrinated themselves. See what I'm saying? And so they're not bringing the message to where it's being brought as a form of universal truth. They bringing the message as a form of divisiveness to keep one's looking down on one another. Meanwhile, everybody in the same boat. Talking about letting me up. I can't breathe because you got your foot on my neck and I'm choked. Nah, that's not what that's not gonna be conducive to us as a whole. You see? So gaining that understanding of why is our schools of thought, why are they connected? And then when you do what you do, understanding, why you're doing it, knowing that, we not put here to, be in disagreement or opposition to one another. Yeah, that's going to come about because you got some that just ain't going to budge. Cool. That's between them and Allah, But for us, the true believers, we here to unify. We here to bridge the gap and find those similarities. And also going off into the science on dealing with man, this physical composition that we got is really a divine piece of machinery, man, because we have gifts and abilities that we ain't even tapped into because of the division, because of a hidden agenda. We are able to do some things, right, that would literally free us overnight, literally. So my thing is how many of us really want to be free? How many of us really believe that, we have the ability to, and then too, how many of us really, desire to really draw near to the great God? Because we got there's some things, man, that when it comes to these spiritual teachings and these religious systems, we're supposed to be operating at a certain level. And that's what it's designed to do. Because we that's what we're put here for, in all of the schools of thought. When you read about creation in the majority of the schools of thought, it's really saying the same thing, as far as the earth being formed, the universe being formed, coming out of nothingness, the causeless cause and the rootless root. All of these things are said with different words, but it's the same message, and then with man coming on the scene, it's the same message told to different nations and tribes according to their tongue, but it's showing the essence from which we all come. So anything in between, then in anything in between that causes division, it's got to be some knowledge. That can't be right. So that's why these things are important. This is why we must unify. This is why bridging the gap is so important, is because it gives us an opportunity to dialogue from a holistic standpoint, because we taking all schools of thought into consideration, because we honor all of the prophets, because we know that all of them brought a portion of humanity that was needed for that special people at that time, and is still needed today. Why? Because truth don't change, you know. So if it was true, you know, 6,000 years ago, you know, it still applies today. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, not to get caught up in the relative or in the relativity thing or nothing like that, but these are things, man, we got to understand and come together and unite on, because, man, we are divine people, and really the world waiting on us. We the ones tripping. You know what I'm saying? You know, we arguing and fighting amongst one another, and guess what? Still in the coffin. Because guess what? most of us is clinging to those names that allude to slavery, right? So just take the state, whatever state you live in, and however many counties is in there, and then take all of the people who consider themselves black, right? Take all of them people, right? And 9 times out of them are paying taxes, right? So they're paying taxes to the same system and same government that's enforcing the I'm gonna say the trickery, the what do you call it? The trickery, the enslaved. That's enforcing the enslavement. So, you know, we fighting amongst ourselves about, you know, the religious system, and then, you know, we cling into these names that allude to slavery. Meanwhile, ones are just sitting back like, yeah, look at them, they still ain't got it. Yeah, you know. So it's like, man, what we can't see. We gotta see that. You know, we got to understand that love and unity is most definitely key. And without that foundation, you know, of love and unity and understanding, you know, unity is something that'll just be a myth. But, you know, we know as true believers that, nah, unity ain't no myth. This is for real. This is written, you know. And then when we get in dealing with the law, you know, one dealing with that, the law is love. So if you demonstrating that, you ain't got to worry about violating, you know, your brother, your sister. And it's just that simple. It's not hard. You know, it's not grievous either, because, you know, those things that need to be addressed in the self, right? If you have a religious system and you're just doing the practices on the physical, mundane plane, you just going through the motions, but you're not understanding what it's designed to do to address the issues in the self, right? You might, you know, do 5 rakahs and then get up in the same state that you in, because of the lack of understanding, because of the lack of sincerity, because of the lack of knowledge, you know, not knowing what you're doing. You're just doing it because, you know, that's just what everybody else do. You know, that's just what the religion do, you know. So we got to understand these things and, you know, continue to dialogue with our brother and our sisters, because it might be some insight that they have that will be a breakthrough in your understanding, you know, because a lot of us have went through things, right, and overcame them, that some of us are about to go through or are going through right now. So who you gonna listen to? That brother or that sister that overcame it? Or that one, you know, that one that's just, you know, really don't care, read you out the book, you know, tell you something to make you feel good and get you on up out of the way? No, you're gonna listen to the one that went through it and overcame it, you know. But guess what? In order to listen, you gotta have that ego in check. You can't have that mentality, oh, you can't tell me nothing. Nah, man. No. You know what I'm saying? The moment you stop learning, you a dead man. You should always, you know, be willing to learn. Always keep your cup half full. So the great God can pour some in there, you know? And and then I'm okay. This is something that I usually do. Like if the ego get up, I don't want to tell. He can't tell me nothing. I always remember that story about Balaam. Balaam, that donkey. He was on the dude was on the donkey, and he was in this middle of like two walls, right? So he hitting the donkey, he telling, come on, man, let's go. And the angel sitting right there with a flaming sword, and the donkey turned around and said, man, I would go, but it's an angel right there ready to smite both of us. So we had to take on that mind frame to say, if one sent a message through one, who's to say that just wasn't a person that the great God was speaking through? He spoke through an animal. Why come he can't speak through man? Now we learn in our teachings that Allah speaks to man through two ways, through a still small voice and through the voice of man. But in order to hear the still small voice, what you got to do? Go back to yoga, still your mind. You know what I'm saying? In order to heal your body, what you got to do? Go back to Chi, go back to Kung Fu and different, go back to understanding, how this temple works. Because we are the living temple, not outside, not a part of, the organization that you from. No, we one nation of people with a nationality intact and a government. This is what, this is what unity is. We come together, meet each other where we at. You might not necessarily agree with my portion of the measure of understanding at this time. I might not necessarily agree with your portion of the measure of understanding at that time. But guess what? As we go and unfold, we both gonna gain clarity. And in the gaining of the clarity, one ain't gaining clarity so I can say I'm better than you, or I'm trying to rule over you, or I'm superior to you in my knowledge. Nah, man, that's egotistical. That's baby thinking, man. That's the thinking of an animal, man. Ain't anybody got time for that. We got babies to save, man. I got a whole bunch of little cousins coming behind me, and ain't nobody out here, excuse my language, it ain't too many people out here that seem like they even caring, about that right there. Because, the agendas that's being set up now, they planning 20, 50, 30, 40, years ahead. So they can continue to do, what's been going on. They ain't anticipating on giving up, their spot. You know what I'm saying? So it's a must that we come together to be the examples for those who are coming behind us. Because if not, I don't want to be that, that old man to sit back and look like, man, I wish I would have. And then now you sitting up here, you watching your whole family, your whole generation getting wiped out, decimated. You know what I'm saying? Walking around, feminine and all of that. Don't want to hold their head up. All because of what? We couldn't come together. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to stay bridged in the gap. So now you got the LGBTQ community coming in your city, sitting on your city council, telling you that, oh yeah, it's okay for you to have, men can go in a woman bed, or you can put gay education in the children's educations. Go ahead and teach them about that. Yeah, that's going on. And why? Because we are, one is over here and the other was over here, and we mean mugging, looking at each other like not knowing that we want to, not even caring that we one nation of people. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, our bread is being eaten by another. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not funny, but it's, it's serious. But when you look at it, it's like, man, we got to, it's a must that we got to, because we do have more in common than we do. And I keep saying that we got more in common than we do, than we don't. you know. So, you know, that's my measure, you know, in regards to, you know, bridging the gap, you know, come on, you know, wherever you from, come on, come build. I promise you, we gonna find somewhere. Cause I already know. I know Swift Angel number 4. No, I know for a fact because I didn't seen it. I studied it. I live it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see no division. All I see is one, you know? And so now it's like, well, at least let's start dialoguing. You know, that way we can stir up the ethers, get some ideas flowing.
Islam. You know? Islam. Yes, sir. And we give honors to you, brother, for that measure. And going in the light of the same droid, and we're gonna get ready to close it out. I'm gonna just get this brief measure, you know, in the we'll say in support of what you just brought forth. When we talk about the bridging of the gaps, you know, as we done spoke on the things that led to our division, you know, the things that can bring us back into unity and so forth and so on. Just certain points that I'm familiar with, you know, that deal with unity. And you look at that term division, you can hear really division. You see, and if your vision dies, then what is it that you have to guide you, you know, through these trying times? And most of our people are suffering from a death of a vision, you know, so that's where the division come from, you see. And just as we spoke on Judaism and the connections and the links, you know, the common ground, so to speak, between those who deal with the Bible and the Quran. When we get into the level of where we are now, if we pay attention, just as you had prophets during the ancient time, you know, and you look at that leadership that came amongst us, you know, the mastermind, they came in a succession, you know, starting out with our beloved brother Marcus Mosai Garvey L. You know, he had a grand vision. He created a provisional constitution and everything. You know, Prophet Noble Drew Ali looked at the brother as his harbinger. So if you look at him, he was big up in Marcus Garvey. He wasn't beefing with the Garveyite movement, even though you had those who want to tell you that's what was going on. And we even had a reflection, you know, where they were sitting in the same vessel, so to speak, even though people like to deny that as well. But we know that Noble Drew Ali visited the brother, you know, when he was in prison in Atlanta, Georgia, you know, but that's a whole nother measure. But Marcus Garvey did a work for that special time, and he could take the people only so far. He was that John the Baptist that prepared the way for one that would come behind him, you know, but many people had a misunderstanding with what it was that he brought. He had a lot of opposition from his own people. Some of the same people that were supposed to be aiding him along the way end up being the ones that was working for the oppressor, so to speak, to ensure that he was not able to accomplish what he set out to accomplish. You know, they had the movie Judas and the Black Messiah that just came out recently, which is a pretty good flick, so to speak. You know, it has a lot of history that's worthy of paying attention to, because this is the realization of every organization that has come up from amongst our people. It's always been one that has been, we'll say, in a situation where they were willing to be bought. They had a price. And this is why most of our leadership ended up getting took off the count. So you had agents and agent provocateurs moving among the ranks, even during that time. And it was all under the auspices of one individual, J. Edgar Hoover. You know, he didn't believe in reformation of who he deemed criminals. His whole goal was straight murder. He was laying the murder game down. You know, that was his way of dealing with any problem. You know, we're going to get this one out the body, you know, or, you know, trump some charges up on him, or assassinate his character to the extent to where maybe he'll kill himself. He used the same tactics on Martin Luther King that he used on Marcus Garvey. You see, this one can go down in history and say he had a hand in pretty much assassinating all of our leadership. So go figure. How was that allowed to happen, though? It was because there was some weakness in our people, and they were willing to cross lines that normal people wouldn't cross with each other. It's not normal for you to kill your brother and betray your brother, bloodline wise or non-bloodline wise. So we have to look at each other as a collective. When I hurt, you hurt. When you hurt, I hurt. That's unity. If you're dealing with one body anyway, right? So the foundation that was laid through that movement, basically established a basis for the first fruits of what became, those who were the first followers of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But yet, even then, they too, our people in that special state didn't really honor our holy prophet as they should have. Not everybody, just some. But he did what it was meant for him to do. And he's still working from the plane of soul. One thing they had in common is that they both believed that we were to demonstrate becoming at least a government. That's what we call self-determination. We have to be willing to pull ourselves up by our own bootstrap and be acknowledged by our own merits, as opposed to allowing somebody else to tell us, what it is that we accept, what it is that we shouldn't accept. So what are some of the things that bridge, the gap between the UNIA and the MST of A? Well, you don't see the UNIA and the MST of A going back and forth. So there's really not a whole lot to really bridge there. Outside of the terminology, they say, okay, well, the term black is being used. Well, I'm pretty sure it was many people referring to themselves as such during the time of the prophet. But, he still worked with all of our people. So it's not where one goes on a tirade based upon a word, and say, all right, them ones saying they black, we ain't gonna deal with them. No, that ain't how we are just simply here to educate our people in those areas. Yeah, the prophet taught, black according to science mean death, but you have to question which kind of science. In the science of law, we know what the word black mean in law. In the science of spirituality, we know what these things mean. So it's no need to get into the semantics of it. But he also said black is not, death is not he said black is not he said black according to science mean death, but he also said that death is not an enemy to man, but a friend, basically. So that is a basis of being able to bridge the gap, just dealing with the words. And also our people being able to acknowledge the fact that we have a nationality. And that's what we were talking about earlier when we spoke on 3/5 of a human being. 3/5 of a human being, again, is subhuman. 5/5, when you have that nationality and divine creed, that's what make you holistic. So now when we come to, the group that came after the MST of A, the NOI, and many of our people may think that we have some opposition. We are not in opposition to our NOI family. I'm very familiar, with the teachings of the NOI. And I tell our family all the time, I got lessons here from way back in the 1930s, dealing with the NOI, I got old lessons dealing with the 5% nation and all of that. So I'm very knowledgeable for the teachings of the Nation of Islam. I ain't somebody that just talking about it and ain't never read it. I got the Theology of Time and all those books over here. So I understand also that Noble Drew Ali said in the year 2000, the Moors were coming to their own. You see? And so there was a gap there, as to who all came behind him. They were doing a particular work. So all that work that was being done in between that time period all the way up to 2000, it was prophesied. So we're not against the NOI, in our family. We're not trying to oppose them either. The differences have to do with one's perception as according to what one accepts. For example, Noble Drew Ali taught that the European was Satan before the NOI came on the manifest, but that don't take nothing from the NOI, because they begin to teach that the white man is there. He taught that the European was descendant of Adam and Eve, and they went into Europe. He also said that this was, the children of Adam and Eve was Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, beast, in the 102s. So, similar aspects. He taught that man is spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. He taught that when Allah speaks to man, he speaks through man. So we know the aspects when you demonstrate where they say, well, Allah came in the person of a particular one. Farad came to us, and so we understand that Allah speaks. He's speaking right now through us. He spoke, through you a few minutes ago. Allah be speaking through some more of our Moorish kin as well. And Elijah had a grand insight, because in the theology of time, he told him, he said, I like saying Allah taught me this and Allah taught me that. So when he would be reading and studying, a lot of times he was given a lot of credit for what he read. So that was a high degree of monotheism, if you look at it that way. So I don't look at it as if he's seen that man as to worship the physical of that man. I seen it the same way as when Allah told the angels, for example, he say prostrate toward a man, but he didn't tell them to prostrate to the man. He said, bow down before this Adam, or whatever the case may be. He was talking about the spirit that was in the man. So we can reason, with the concepts that some of our brothers demonstrate, because I understand this. It'll be wrong for me to sit up here and not be able to reason with our brothers and sisters and be in opposition to them. However, we know, as well as the NOI know, it's only one Allah. You see what I'm saying? It's only one great God. You see? So that's a whole nother measure. But going into the same essence of the portion, we have to stop with the semantics and going back and forth on, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. All of us contributed something. Even Farrakhan said in one of his speeches of the year 2000, then what? Well, if the year 2000 was the time when the Moor were coming to their own, then what? They'll be coming into their own government. That was a statement he made at the Million Man March. So, we can see many points of reference to where we can bridge a gap as opposed to be in opposition. Like, even, I'm surprised I know why they don't do it. I would say that I would guess that's why they don't do it. I would like to see the day when they just refer to themselves as the tribe of Shabazz. If that's what they are, if that's what Elijah taught them they are, it's not necessary. And he also said, your nationality is not your landmass. Your nationality is not your skin color. He taught them that in their lesson. He said, your nature, your true nature is a righteous Muslim. See, and one's overlooking that, though, if it's coming from somebody like us, because they're looking at us as being outside of the doctrine. Not all of them, because I'm pretty sure it's some brothers that will reason just like we reasoning now. But, none of us should be fanatical about what it is we demonstrate. Same thing when it comes to our MST of A family. The only problem that, has to do with a barrier between the government and the temple is that many of our family have been taught to believe that something has been changed. You see? And we didn't change something in the MST of A. The MST of A is still functioning as it normally does. So in the Moorish American government, what we have is what we call an amended law, amendment. You see? Well, one time we was members, now we have unfolded into citizenship. Well, one time there was a temple and the temple is still functioning as they are. We unfolded into government. That's the only thing. Other than that, the law of the prophet is still alive and well in the teachings of the government. And it wasn't established in opposition. It was just a matter of unfoldment. And what is the foundation for that? The prophet said, the general laws I have given to you. The supreme laws will be passed down to you later. And so now we are demonstrating under the supreme laws, and we call this moving from the age of preparation into the age of fulfillment. It ain't got nothing to do with attacking our family in the MST of A or being in opposition to it. We say it all the time. Even the flag right there behind you. You know, this flag wasn't created, to go against another flag. We created this flag for the 60 million of our people so that when we go before the nations of the earth, there would not be any conflict or confusion. You see, there would not be any conflict and confusion as to what flag is which flag, so that's one of the aspects, and our family just have to, seek understanding, guidance from the great God Allah, if they truly seek to understand what it is we bringing on the manifest. A lot of time when you seen us going back and forth with ones out here in the media, we wasn't even concerned with a win or a loss, going back to subjugate one, so to speak. We were looking at it like this. We out here trying to teach our people. And if one is in opposition to us coming together, then somebody else must have sung them. So it's like I was telling a brother like this here, when you deal with the story of Elijah going to the mountain, and basically dealing with the people of Baal and Balaam, and so to speak. And basically when he seen that they couldn't bring fire from heaven, not only did he consume the false idol, but he told them, go down there and catch them ones and slay them. Not saying that we are here to do harm to our people, because that ain't what we're talking about. We are saying those who are perpetrating the fraud among our people, intellectually, off with their intellectuality, so to speak. We ain't dealing with that, so this ain't because we don't like the MST of A. Now we dealing with cancers that we cutting away. You see what I'm saying? There's plenty of good brothers in the MST of A. There's plenty of good sisters in the MST of A. There's plenty of Moorish American Muslims in the MST of A. So we ain't here to do no harm and make war, but symbolically we waging war with the beast within ourselves. That's what we trying to take off the count, and so if we see that you trying to bring your bestiality before us, then, we waging war with the beast within you. Not physically, we doing it with the scimitar of consciousness, because that's what we do. What does the scimitar represent to us? The bear, the guard, and the blade. We using it to cut away the ungainly parts. Ain't nobody physically getting cut away, but we cutting away that knot in the thought patterns of our people. And we feel we doing that in defense of what the prophet originally established, his original temple. We doing that in the defense, of our brothers, all of the ancestors that have come and laid a foundation. You see, so this is unity. Where we can see the love from this especially extent. But you can't even get to these discussions if we always have, like you say, the going to back and forth, the fist of cups, and this is what ones is focusing on. Because it's a waste of time. You see, it's a waste of time. You had our family, the NOI, give birth to the nation of gods and earth. What is the contention? Clans 13X called itself Father God Allah. They believe Farad is Allah. You know what I'm saying? But if you go back to the reason and what we put down earlier, if one recognizes Allah has the ability to speak to man through man, well, he was speaking to the NGE, or the nation of gods and earth, through that particular brother. He made his mark. He came up out of Mosque number 7. Malcolm, our brother El Haj Malik Shabazz, the foundation that he laid. When he came out teaching, it's the same thing. That brother laid a foundation, planted seeds in the new, where the Black Panther Party was born from him, so to speak. And so that was another different group that came forth from these same seeds. Then you had the street organizations, all over the place that, have come on the manifest, basically as well. These are fruits as well from these special trees. So all of our people, they have the right idea when it comes to being a nation, demonstrating along the line of unity, but we have yet to accomplish it as a whole, as one unit. We have yet to be raised up whole and intact. And this is what they call the symbolic or proverbial Hiram Abiff, the African God man. You see, who is able to raise this Hiram, this man from this shallow grave? And the shallow grave represent the assumable jurisdiction that deal with being Negro, black, and colored under the Reconstruction Amendments. You know what I'm saying? Somebody else's property. Who can bring us out of that condition whole and intact? It would have to be somebody who has a knowledge of not only how you were made, who made you. Yeah, you're a mind, body, and soul, but who made you? That's one of the questions we ask. Allah, God made you. So can't nobody else make you a slave? Can't nobody else strip your nationality, your culture, your tongue, and the divinity away from you unless you believe that their power is beyond that of the great God himself. You see what I'm saying? And so this is the thing that we got to demonstrate that Act 6. You know, teach our people their nationality and divine creed. And thus we restore those 2/5 that were left out. You know, all this has to do with that covenant, that holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. You know, that care that continue in us all in our love for each other and through each other. You see, the breasts of one mother have given us up. That's powerful if we reflect upon it. So now, when you get into this, and I'm going to close at this special point, after coming through all these different pathways and having all these great minds come on to manifest, and even in this special era in time, what's the problem? You know, and we've been on these different platforms, and we give honors to those who allowed us to come to their platform, you know, and demonstrate our portion, you know, even to go into dialogue with different family, you know, the Lion Den, Firehouse Reasoning, you know, Sodnetta TV. We give honors to all of these special measures, you know, but that we want to be those individuals that after the dialogue, that we all come into our own particular concept of unity. So we see what a contention is, we see what a conflict is supposed to be, but where's the commonality? Because we can't just continue on going back and forth with each other and going fist to cuffs with each other about he believed this, he don't believe that, he did, and we ain't got together on no type of foundation of, all right, let's build, let's link up. You know what I'm saying? Let's go out here and establish a system of education for our people. You know, let's establish a mean of provide for ourselves. And see, while we wasting time continuously dealing with just establishing more and more debate leagues, you know, that's no different than establishing more and more organizations, more and more splinter groups, more and more schisms. Nothing wrong with it for the knowledge, for the information, but at some time we got to sit down and establish a council, you know, a consortium where we come to the round table. The consortium is already on the manifest. You see, the government is already on the manifest for their people. You know, so it's all love. We welcome everybody in love and unity. And we want to give honors to the family that's viewing this especially live. Because this ain't the last one. This is the first one. We was kind of feeling our way around this platform, and it was a grand dialogue. And just stay tuned, because we got more like this coming, and this is the only type of content that we will be bringing forth on this particular platform. Now, if we hear somebody that want to come from any of these particular schools of thought, you know, be it the NOI or whoever it is, they welcome to come. But our conversation is going to be dealing with the commonality. You know, how can we link up with each other? It ain't going to be to tear down and drag out somebody's foundation, you know, because we can do that all day. You know, I can go fist to cuffs, you know, and just destroy everything if that was the demonstration. But I'm not here to kill my people. I'm here to build my people. You see? So that's what we're supposed to be doing in Mastermind, you know, and that's what we're going to do. We bridging the gaps, you know, and we just want to say salute to you, family. And with that, I stand down, and my brother got anything he want to briefly say, all is well. And we give honors to you brothers or sisters that's out there watching us, because we got more to bring to the manifest in regards to dealing with this unity. And this platform would not become corrupt. If somebody come up in here and they own that, trust me, they ain't gonna be in here long. It's straight unity and love is what we demonstrate. Go ahead, brother.
Peace and love.
Islam.
I want to say, in this journey, we embarking upon. I'm speaking all of us, because if one of us ain't free, ain't none of us free. So, we embarking on this journey, and in this journey, we should, realize and take pride in that, we doing something that I'm gonna say hasn't necessarily been done, in a couple 100 years. And so, this is something that we should take pride in, that we should see as sacred, that we should, honor and respect, and uphold, and realize that, all of us is important. It don't matter if a person, give you an example. In a business, you got some people that clean up the store, you got some people that write the checks, and you got some people that make the agendas, or pretty much call the shots. None of those are insignificant, from the person who cleans the store all the way up to the CEO. Because guess what? The CEO ain't got time, or probably don't even want to get there, and clean their toilet. So look at it as, all of us are significant. Ain't no big eyes, ain't no little U's. We just want to unify. We want all of our people free. And at the same time too, it's a joy to build. It's a joy to build on a positive note, because in building, you receive a sort of esteem because you participated in something good. And I also see this also look at it as it being significant, because now now we have the opportunity to offer things that we can pass down to generations to come. And that's just my message. Let's come together and unify and dialogue and build. Bring your thoughts. Bring whatever it is that bring it. And let's unify and show the unity. Show the similarities in between all of the religious systems. In between all of the schools of thought, and see us. And when we look at each other, we need to see each other. When you look into the face of man, then you look into the face of Allah. When you look into the face of your brother, you should be knowing that you're looking into the face of yourself too, especially if you love yourself. So with that, I yield the floor. Peace and love, family.
Peace and love, family. So we just want to salute all you, who are basically interested in the unity of the people. We're not here to browbeat you over the head with religion. Yeah, we are spiritual people. We demonstrate the ways of ancient Kemet. We demonstrate the lofty teachings of Judaism, from our ancestors' perspective. We deal with the teachings of the Nazarites, the Essene. We deal with also the teachings of Buddha, the teachings of Confucius. We deal with the teachings of Krishna. This is the beauty of what Noble Drew Ali brought to the Moors. This is why I fit in the paradigm, because my mind is universal. So how can we have opposition to anybody else when Noble Drew Ali brought us a universal teaching in a small pamphlet, but yet having a great measure there that will lead us in many directions of love. So it's just been a grand drawing, family. And I just want to salute everybody, and we will be back on the manifest again. This is not by chance the last time we'll be doing this right here. We're going to be on the manifest a little bit often here and there. So at this time, we just want to say peace and love. We love you. Salute to the family. And gratitude, brother, for coming to the platform. We're going to try to get some more of our other family on here, so that we can hear their input and we can go back and forth and dialogue positive. We want this type of platform to go viral. Everything else already went viral. So we want a platform to go viral where you have people coming from different walks of life communicating with each other with respect. So that being said, we're going to get up out this demonstration. Peace and love to the family. Yahuru to those who demonstrate, that special philosophy that has to do with trying to free themselves. Peace to the gods and earths. Salamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuhu to my Muslim family. Salamu alaikum also to our brothers in the NOI, Islam, to the Moors, in the government and the temple. Shalom to the Israelite community, and just, man, it's just peace and love to everybody that's out there. And with that, we'll end this particular broadcast and just stay safe, family. Islam, brother, Swift Angel, 151. Gratitude.